Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Along with her trusted partners, Diane provides complete service for your real estate transaction and brings us guests who provide useful information on industry-related topics and trends. And now, Missoula Real Estate Today on News Talk, KGVO. Well, thank you for joining us this weekend, and if you like to cook, you are really going to like this edition of Missoula Real Estate Today. My guest is Shelly Meyer. Shelly is CEO, chef, and chef founder, that is, of Montana Flavor to Savor, seasonings and spice blends, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Denny. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm pretty sure you're our first chef. So
wonderful. I love being the first.
Yeah, you got it. And because you are the first, we like to start with the get acquainted part. Your background and what inspired you to create your own line of seasoning, spices, rubs, and all of those things.
Sure. Well, thank you. I have been, along with my husband, Brad, and son, Hunter, have been creating flavors since 1974, starting with Brad. And then it actually became infamous during 2000 to 2015 at our restaurant, Bradley O's Steakhouse. If you remember, we used to do radio spots. Everybody goes to Bradley O's.
Yes, ma'am. I really enjoyed that restaurant.
Thank you. And a lot of our seasonings that we used at the restaurant kind of spurred this idea. And we've been talking about it for years. And actually, when 2020 hit, we had a little bit more time because I actually from being a restaurateur, I turned into being a private and personal chef. But with the cancellations and so forth that happened to so many people in 2020, it spurred time for us to pivot. And this is the perfect time and opportunity to start to commercially produce some of our seasoning blends. And we started with the original Bradley O's steak seasoning. So we used that on everything at the restaurant. And then through my private chef business, I actually started developing more flavors because I wanted consistency. When I would go and cook one meal and then a month later, if my clients wanted that same meal repeated, and if I didn't have the exact measurements, it might be just a little bit different. So for those reasons of making it consistent, but also saving time. Because if you're a chef or even a foodie or a home cook, coming and having, 15 different seasonings and pulling out and measuring a teaspoon of this and a tablespoon of that and a half a teaspoon of this and a quarter teaspoon, that takes so much time. And when you're a private and personal chef, I'm doing multiple meals for my clients in a day. So I needed something that could be consistent flavors that really bring out the right flavors in the proteins or the vegetables that I'm cooking, and that I can just bring it from a bottle and shake it on and it's ready to go with chef flavors. Yeah. And that's really what spurred, developing more. So obviously the restaurant, we had several seasonings, but then through my private chef business, I created more and actually named one of them after myself, Chef Shelly Herb Seasoning.
Very good. Very good.
And so, our signature, our first one is Bradley O's Steak Seasoning, named after my husband and the restaurant.
Yeah.
And then our son is Hunter, and we have Hunter Seasoned Salt because he's also a chef like myself, and he and I are the ones that really run the company. So Brad's off doing some other stuff, and Hunter and I are doing the seasonings.
Was the restaurant the springboard then? Were you getting all kinds of positive feedback from friends and customers wanting to know about the flavors you were using?
It's a great question because it is actually the springboard. Because we actually, before we started doing this commercial packaging goods, people would come into the restaurant and we want to have that steak seasoning at home. Can we buy some steak seasoning? Absolutely. So we'd go and put some in a baggie or a little container and they'd take it home. And I love it. I love it. And it would still bring them back to eat at the restaurant, but they would also be enjoying our steak seasoning at home. And that actually has been going on with our friends and family, since 2000. So, we were catering for a lot of years, we catered with the Arabian horse industry. Brad and I would travel to different parts of the country and do these huge cookouts for a lot of the customers of the trainers and so forth. And I actually, Brad couldn't make it, so I had to cook a plated steak dinner for 75 guests by myself, and I did it in a barn with a portable grill. So, I put this story out on my website, Montana Flavor to Savor. I put the story out there because it's really times like that taught me you just got to make things happen. You just have to go to work and make things happen because 75 guests are waiting for their plated dinners. I'm by myself. And luckily, the client had brought in like 3 servers. They hired some temporary servers. And so I just showed the servers. I said, okay, this is how I want the plate to look. And, I cooked everything and then we came together and plated it. And then they carried it out. And God bless this one guy. He actually, if you know what a cloche is, when you have a plate and then that cover that goes over the top of the plate to keep everything hot, it's called a cloche. So he would put the cloche on and stack a tray, a large serving tray that we used at the restaurant all the time, but he would stack them 3 high. So 6 around, 3 high, and he would carry those out into the sawdust covered arena, and then they would serve the.
Don't trip, dude.
Oh my God!
Don't stumble.
I was so scared of that because I did not, make more than 3 or 4 extras, so I was worried about that. So yeah, it really did. It spurred off of all of our friends and family and the catering, and then the restaurant customers. They wanted the seasonings at home, so we talked about it for years, and then just made it happen.
What a great story! Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate here on Newstalk KGVO. And my guest this week, Shelly Meyer, CEO and chef founder of Montana Flavor to Savor. All the seasonings and spice blends that we're going to get into here. And what makes a good seasoning, Shelly? Maybe that's too broad of a question, but you need exciting flavors, but you don't want to, you don't want to overpower whatever you're using it on, right?
You're absolutely right. And experimentation is a lot of what makes a good seasoning. Yeah. But it's actually based on what you're going to be cooking. If you're cooking a high fat protein, you can actually get away with more spice because spice needs fat or oil or, butter, some sort of fat to carry the spice and the heat. So depending on what you're cooking, you can get really more bold flavors. Now, if you're cooking something like shrimp, that's a little bit more mild, then you have to be thinking about what's going to bring out the wonderful seafood flavor and maybe not be quite so bold. However, maybe you want blackening, and that's all about the heat on your palate. So blackening spice is a little bit something more, and you're thinking about that spice as opposed to if you're thinking about, I just want a really good ribeye. And so the seasonings that you're going to put on that ribeye is more about bringing out the natural, wonderful flavors of that beef ribeye. And then on vegetables, again, you're talking about something that's bland. You want to maybe make it pop. And what we do with my son and I, we've created these flavors that is more than just salt and pepper. Because you can use just salt and pepper, and that's fine. But it gets a little boring. So we've created these seasonings to be quick and easy, ready-made chef flavors, and you can put them on anything for more pop than just salt and pepper. So it's adding more and really chef-inspired flavors. Experimentation, we spent so much time cooking and starting with a bland thing like chicken. So that's kind of what started the full-on experimentation of, we did a blind. I would cook with 5 different versions of the same spice. And we'll just say, like you're talking about the fish seasoning. So I would have like 5 different versions, and I would do a single shrimp in all 5 versions. And then I would have my son and my husband and friends sample and taste all 5 with, like a cracker or water, in between to kind of really cleanse. And then they'd go back and take a bite of, number 2 and like, oh man, no, I really like number 4. So then that's how we kind of developed those recipes is with all of that. And really, I think one of the most underappreciated and undervalued or really understood thing in a chef's arsenal is a palate. You really have to be able to have a palate that can discern between, okay, I've got fennel in that, but I don't have it in this one, or I've got marjoram and oregano and rosemary and thyme. Some of these spices can be, if it's all in one, it's way overwhelming. So it's again about a balance.
Yeah. And
that only comes with experimentation. And truly, if you look at it, if we've been doing this, so the steak seasoning, we've been experimenting with my husband since 1974, and he and I just celebrated 30 years. So 30-year anniversary. So in 30 years, we've kind of been working on, developing all of these flavors because we've been cooking since we've been together. I mean, he wooed me by cooking for me. So it's been a huge part of our life.
Of course.
But, it's about the experimentation and really developing all of that.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate, and our guest, CEO and chef founder of Montana Flavor to Savor, Shelly Meyer. I told you, homeowners and renters out there that like to cook, you'd be getting into this show. And speaking of cooking in the facility, you told me you recently remodeled your kitchen. Now, what advice can you as a chef share with listeners who might be considering a similar move? And this advice coming from an experienced chef.
Yeah.
And that includes things like storage and whatnot.
You bet.
Yeah.
I got the best advice when I was remodeling my kitchen, and is something that as a realtor or in real estate, you really want to think about how you lay out for resale value or whatever. And it's also how you're going to use it. And as a chef, I got the best advice by my cabinet designer. He gave me a 3D printout of my kitchen and my cabinets. And he said, I want you to go through that and pretend like you're cooking, pretend like you're baking, pretend like you're putting the dishes away, and really decide if you want a drawer unit in that location or if you want a cabinet with just doors in that location and how you want to do it. And it was such a beneficial advice and useful tool because I changed the way that my cabinet designer had laid things out. And one of them was, so I have a corner sink. I've got corner windows and a corner sink, and it's wonderful. And they had taken, and if you go to the right of that, there's a cabinet, upper cabinet, on both sides of those windows. But the one on the left, or the right, is by my stove. And when I'm sitting in front of my stove, I want to be able to grab my spices and I want to be able to grab my vinegars and my oils and things I use to cook. So I want my cabinets to open toward the cooktop or away from the cooktop so I can just easily grab with the doors opening away from the cooktop. And they had actually had the door opening toward the sink because they're thinking of putting dishes away. And I'm like, no. As a chef, I want to sit in front of my stove and my cooktop and be able to grab the ingredients. So I want those doors to open out away from my cooktop so all of those ingredients are easy for me to grab. So when I'm cooking, those cabinet doors are open. And also on the spice storage. So this is something that a lot of people don't realize. You don't want to store your spice right next to immediate heat because that's air and spice and heat kill the potency of seasonings and spices. So I put mine on the upper cabinet, but it's an outer wall, so it's got cold kind of from the outer wall. And it's also easily accessed by where I'm cooking, but it's out of the heat. So those are kind of some of the things that I learned, which I thought was very beneficial.
Great. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest, Shelly Meyer. Shelly is CEO and chef founder of Montana Flavor to Savor, all the seasonings and spice blends that you have access to. A Montana company, of course. We want to emphasize that. Also want to say thanks to some of Diane's marketing partners that help bring Missoula Real Estate Today to you every weekend. They are Miles Link of Opportunity Bank of Montana, Rob Fleming with Man Mortgage, and Carol Blodgett at MakeItMissoula.com. Back to Shelly Meyer, and you got a YouTube channel. What goes on during a cooking program on Shelly's YouTube channel?
Oh, so much. Oh, so much.
First, the duration. About how long is a program?
Each one is kind of different as far as the timing, depending on the recipes that I'm cooking.
Yeah.
But it's anywhere from 15, 17 minutes all the way up to maybe 30 minutes.
Okay.
If I'm doing a full plated meal with sides and maybe a dessert, it might take 30 minutes.
Yeah,
but
all right.
if I'm not, it's about 15 minutes. But my YouTube, but it's actually... So it started out on a Roku national TV channel, and that's Eat This TV network. And they also have a YouTube channel, and you can watch it on Apple TV or Amazon TV and so forth. So it's a national cooking show. It's called Shelly's Game Kitchen. I really kind of focus on cooking game meat and the techniques, because I've heard from so many people that they don't understand how to cook this very lean and dry protein in an upscale way. So it's all about being able to bring flavors and technique to very lean protein.
Yeah.
And that correlates to not just game. That's chicken, that's turkey. And actually a funny history of the steak seasoning, when Brad first started to make it in 1974, it was to flavor turkey. And then he realized that it created something that was great on steak and game and so forth. So that's kind of just a little backstory history, but I find that so interesting. But the cooking show is so much fun, but there's so much that goes on behind the scenes.
A lot of prep work.
A lot of prep work. And so what you actually see in those 15 minutes has taken me 3 or 4 hours to...
You are preaching to the choir, sister. Yeah, believe me.
Yeah, I'm sure there's
plenty of programs that I, particularly University of Montana sports programs, long form, but to spend an hour and a half to 3 hours to put something on air that might last, an hour to an hour and a half. Yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah. So there's so much on that, the sound checks, the color checks, the mic checks, and then something falls off, or somebody, where I filmed in New York for season 1 was filmed in New York, and announcement, season 2, they're actually coming to Montana.
Oh, very nice.
And filming here. So it's pretty exciting, and I'm glad to do that, because there'll be a lot of really cool episodes that I want to do foraging through the forest, and I've got some guests that are going to show. So it's going to be fun. But when we're actually creating the dishes, all of the prep work that I've done has taken, weeks, because I'm perfecting the recipe that I want to share with my viewers. And also, in New York, there was 3 different studios. And so somebody would walk in off of from one studio and be talking really loud and not realizing that we're on a live mic, and those sort of things, cut, retake, or the sound wasn't quite right. My director comes in and is like, the sound's not right. We need to reshoot that episode or reshoot that last 5 minutes. And like, okay, what did I say that I liked? Because a lot of my friends think that I have scripted this show, and it's not. It's totally off the cuff. I'm blessed with the gift of the gab. I can actually talk about what I'm passionate about, which is food and flavor. So,
what are I guess I'll ask 2 questions in one here. First, what are some of your most popular items right now? And hand in hand with that, what would you say your most versatile product or products are right now?
Ooh, good question. So the most popular, I think we're in Montana. We are a meat-loving, community. So our steak seasoning is the most popular. And next to that is probably the fish seasoning. But the most versatile, it's a great question. And I think that's actually one that I am learning myself, because I didn't put it out there to be versatile. I put it out there for one reason, but it's turned into something really exciting. And that's my salt-free seasoning. Because my salt-free, I had clients that had high blood pressure. Myself, I've struggled with it. So that was the purpose of making this wonderful salt-free. But I was cooking one day. I was trying to make tacos, and I had all of the other prep stuff done. Like, I'm definitely stuck on making tacos. And I'm browning my meat and reach up into the cabinet. And I didn't have any cumin. And I didn't have any cayenne. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I can't reverse and not make tacos. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, knowing my ingredients and my seasonings, I'm like, okay, hey, I can grab my bitter blackening spice, which is a Cajun spice, because it's got oregano, which is a very, Mexican thing. It's got, because it's blackening spice, it has cayenne. Like, okay, those are ingredients. And then my salt-free has cumin, and it has coriander. It's some of the ingredients. I'm like, okay, hey, these are my Mexican spices. So I'm going to try it. It's either going to be really good or it's going to be something that, nope, not doing that again. It ended up being really good. And even my husband was like, that's the best taco seasoning that you've ever created. I'm like, okay. And that actually spurred the idea.
Yeah, I meant to do that.
Yeah, I meant to. Right. And that spurred the idea. And I actually started doing it with the fish seasoning. And I actually filmed one of my episodes of my show is cranberry elk stuffed acorn squash. And I created that with my fish seasoning, even with the red meat. Used the fish seasoning with my salt-free modifier and a little bit of cinnamon. And I created Moroccan flavors. And so those are kind of the new things that I'm creating now, is different ways to create ethnic flavors by combining my salt-free modifier, which that's what I'm going to be labeling it at. Right now it's labeled as a salt-free seasoning, and I'm going to relabel it as a salt-free modifier because, I discovered that by accident, and it's turned out to be really exciting.
Yeah, I immediately wondered about that when we first started to get to know each other recently, that I figured, I'll bet Shelly is always thinking about the next product, right? Flavors you sense there's a demand for that you haven't tapped into yet, that you don't even know are out there yet.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. It is so funny because in our family, so it's my husband, my son, and I, we're all three chefs.
Yeah.
So, my son and I actually went through school and are certified chefs. My husband's just been doing it for so long. He's a chef by association. But all we ever do is talk about flavor and spice and how we can do that. Because that's actually what started why we opened up Bradley O's Steakhouse in 2005, was we had been catering for years, and we catered to international dignitaries and a lot of people, and some from Argentina. It's a huge beef culture,
right.
Red meat culture in Argentina. And they would tell us that's the best steak we've ever had in our life.
Wow.
And it's because of the seasoning. Because if you just flop a steak on the grill or in the pan, you're just going to get blah. So it might be really great quality meat and Wagyu or whatever, but you still want to enhance and bring out those flavors. And that takes seasoning. And so many national restaurant chains, it's amazing because my husband and I, we've traveled all over, and there's so many national chains out there that they don't season their steaks.
Gosh.
And so that really spurred it, like, okay, let's do it. We catered, let's open up a restaurant. And did it for 10 years. So it was very successful, but 80 to 90 hours a week, I couldn't do anymore.
Yep. Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest is Shelly Meyer, CEO and chef founder of Montana Flavor to Savor. And, cooking, and I can hear it in your voice, and it has been your life and your vocation for so many years. And cooking can be such a personal experience for so many,
absolutely.
Regardless of the ability level. Do you feel like your line of products can benefit people at any level of cooking skill?
Oh, absolutely. I think that regardless of if you're just beginning or you're a professional chef, You're always looking for, and I tell you, a professional chef's kitchen has the most spices of anybody because they're always looking, oh, I want to try that and I want to try that. So it really doesn't matter what level you're at. However, what I think the best benefit of Montana Flavor to Savor seasonings is they're ready-made. And it's quick and easy for those busy times. So if you're not really a chef or a home cook, but you want great flavor, quick and easy. Wow. Hey, you're busy, you're at soccer practice with the kiddos, or you're bowling team or pool league or whatever, and you come home and you just need to make great flavor fast.
Yeah.
It's perfect for that too. And it's also for the professional chef because they understand balance. And one of your questions that you asked me earlier is what makes a good seasoning? And one thing I wanted to say also is it's balance. It's the balance between, in a chef's palate, the balance between spice and sweetness, the balance between acid and umami and so forth. And creating a blend that can cross over into different proteins or different vegetables. And even in the vegan world, it all really depends on balance. And different foods have different enzymes that will bring out different flavors. So that's why I think our seasonings are some of the best you'll ever try. And they're so versatile and easy to use for any level of cook. Truly.
Great. And now we got people going, well, how do I get them? How do I get them? How do I get them? And we will get there, folks. How you acquire Montana Flavor to Savor products. We'll talk about ordering online, but real quick, you also have your products in some businesses as well, right?
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. And they're going really well. So down in Hamilton, we have them in several stores. Ace Hardware in Sandy's Kitchen, they've got a wonderful new remodeled area with a lot of specialty kitchen areas and seasonings. And so we are in there. And then also down in Darby at the Old West Antique and Candy Store. Mm-hmm. And then I'm actually in Terry, Montana at Prairie Unique, Maiden Montana store. I'm in St. Regis at Montana Moxie Market. And then also one of the most exciting new products I have is our espresso rub.
Right.
And so I actually, because I'm a Montanan, grew up here since I was 5 years old, and I'm quite a bit older than that now, been a Montanan. So I want to take care of my community. And I partnered with Big Creek Coffee Roasters to use their coffee in our espresso rub. So we also have it at Big Creek Coffee Roasters, and there's one here in Missoula. They opened
it. Yes.
Yeah.
They're with the fly fishing store, or the at Wyoming and Montana, or Wyoming and Russell, I want to say, right over there.
I think so.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yes. So you can actually get our espresso rub here in Missoula at Big Creek Coffee Roasters. You can get our steak and fish seasoning. So our top three seasonings here in Missoula, as well as the Big Creek Coffee Roasters in Hamilton, too. So all of those are kind of local stores, or statewide stores that you can really find us.
And to close it out for everybody, you also have a web presence, obviously.
Absolutely.
Order online, see all the products and everything, huh?
Definitely. You can order online at montanaflavortosavor.com. And you can just Google or internet search Montana Flavor to Savor, and we'll come right up. We have our full backstory and the full line of different seasonings. So there's 6 that we have that are the foundation one, and then the espresso rub. So the 6 are Bradley O Steak Seasoning, Chef Shelly's Herb Seasoning, Hunter Seasoned Salt. So that's the family, the founders.
Yeah.
And then we have Bitterroot Blackening Spice. I have Sapphire Fish Seasoning, and then Tin Cup Salt-Free Modifier. And then the espresso rub. So everything is beautiful, labeled with Montana-inspired labels, colorful, and so forth. So really showing love for my home state. We got to show love for Montana out there.
Beautiful. Shelly Meyer, CEO and chef founder of Montana Flavor to Savor. Great job. Thank you for coming on the show. I hope you come back sometime.
Well, thank you for having me, Denny. This has been so much fun. I hope I shared some interesting things and helpful things.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Email dianebeck@windermere.com or For a complete directory of Diane's listings, visit move2missoula.com. That's move2missoula.com. We'll see you next time on Missoula Real Estate Today.